I read something regarding the destruction of the Second Temple and the Roman conquest, which shocked me to the core of my being. And it instructs so much about what the destruction then was about and what we need to do today as we approach Tisha B'Av. This appears in the book of Flavius Josephus, Yosef ben Matityahu, the well-known Jewish commander, part of the rebellion against the Romans, who after captured and became a slave, turned into a chronicler, historian on behalf of the Romans, and wrote, of course, history of the Jews, the wars of the Jews, and so much about the Roman conquest and beyond. And he writes an incredible thing about a conversation between Vespasian, the Emperor Vespasian, his son Titus, and the Roman generals. It appears in book number 4, chapter 6. Incredible thing. The Roman generals came to Vespasian, who was then the head of the army of Judea. He would, of course, become the emperor famously in the year 69 CE. It's known as the year of the four emperors. There was so much political unrest, and 4 different emperors either were killed or committed suicide, until eventually Vespasian in the year 69 literally was brought back from the conquest of Judea back to Rome, where he ruled for 10 years. And his son Titus took over, who, of course, Rahman al-Islam, destroyed the temple. And Vespasian was having a conversation, says Josephus, with Titus and the other generals. And the general said, Vespasian, what are you waiting for? We're surrounding Jerusalem. It's time to destroy the city. He said an incredible thing. He said, no, the Jewish people, the Jews of the time, the sects, will destroy themselves. What do you mean? He says, don't you know what's going on? He says, God is a Roman general. God is fighting on our behalf more than anyone else. He says the Jews are so divided. They're fighting amongst each other. He said so poignantly, if we fight, that will unite them. They will fight like nothing before. United, they've got a chance. Disunited, they don't. Lead them to their own devices, and indeed, they will destroy themselves from within. Shockingly, that is what happened. We know that as the Roman army came down to the south, all the other fleeing forces, Yochanan of Gush Chalav, Shimon bar Giora, all the other commanders came into Jerusalem, and they had all the ideologies. They had the city people who were more moderate. They had the villagers, and those from the north, which were a little bit more extreme, and everybody was there together, all the different views amongst the Jewish people. Some people, the zealots, the Sicarii, said, fight to the end, fight to the death, no way of surrendering. Others said we should surrender, and all types of views in between. And the sects amongst themselves, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Sicarii, the zealots, were so disunited that said Vespasian, leave them to their own devices. And literally, while the temple was being destroyed, Jews were still fighting amongst each other who was right and who was wrong. This is, of course, the meaning of Sinat Chinam, which the Gemara speaks about, baseless hatred. And the Netziv of Volozhin, his introduction to Ha'amek Davar, elaborates about the battles between the different sects. Everybody was delegitimizing the other. This is our great lesson today, that if we want to rebuild Yerushalayim with Ahavat Chinam as we know, it has to be a tikkun, a rectification. The political discourse has to change. When we argue with others and we delegitimize them, we fight them to the death, and we literally to the death, often metaphorically, Rahman al-Islam, even physically, but we're not able to hear another view and totally delegitimize the person, and that there's no room for discussion at all, that there can be no reasonable discourse, we perpetuate, as we know, the sin of the destruction. May we come together as a people, not only in times of war, where we seem to be outstanding, but also in times of peace, as we forge our way forward and our destiny together. May we be able to respect each other, engage in accepting a discourse, disagree vehemently, but validate the person. And through Ahavat Chinam and validating each other, we'll build a common destiny together. And please God, very soon, the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, the temple, speedily in our days. Shabbat Shalom.